Hello, this is Alejandro Bratti, Shanei Born, and CJ Kusler from Believe in Yourself, Believe in Your Business, and welcome to Spanglish World Network on Single TV, channel 250. Please remember to download both the Single TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Single TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Roku, and every smart TVs. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here with us. We have a special guest today, John. Thank you for being here with us. We are really honored to have you here with us today. So welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here, excited to be here, and looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, this conversation is, as you know, about believing yourself and believing your business. That is exactly what I see in your life and everything that you have been doing in different parts. But I really want to start with your life, who you were before you started to really believe in yourself, even some stories that you can say, like, okay, now you can understand who is John, because maybe I know that Christine and then the friends that I know you is like thinking like, yeah, John is amazing. John has been doing a lot of things, but maybe they don't know exactly all the things that you went through to become the person that you are right now.
Okay, are you sure? Are you sure you want to hear this?
I really want to
Yeah,
hear
we do.
this.
Your whole audience might leave after they find out who's on here today. But no, look, I don't have all the things that society says you're supposed to have to be successful. I don't have a high school diploma. Of course, I don't have a college degree, but I was off track really bad as a young person. When I was 15 years old, it was my first felony arrest. I found myself locked up in a juvenile detention facility up until almost 17 years old, when I was released. And something that we now know today, or we call the crack epidemic, had hit our neighborhood pretty hard. I wanted to be a capitalist. I wanted to be, a businessman, and I attempted to go that route, because in the neighborhood I grew up in, there were two types of people. There was a capitalist and there was a consumer. And when I was released from the juvenile detention facility, I thought the way for me to go would to be, I attempted to sell drugs, is the bottom line. And I didn't get the memo. Don't get high on your own supply. Yeah. Funny now, not funny then. By 17 years old, I had a heart attack from smoking crack cocaine. There were some circumstances around that I found myself locked up again. But there was a difference now, because I was locked up in a facility and I was participating in a drug rehabilitation program. And there was a guy in there, a guy by the name of Dave. Dave was a former outlaw motorcycle gang member who had turned his life around and now was helping, young people get their life together. And Dave was the first guy who held the mirror up to my face. And he said, listen, man, you're in here because you made an appointment to be here. You can blame the police, you can blame your parents, you can blame everything else, but at the bottom line, it's your fault. And I didn't buy into that right away, but Dave was the first guy that didn't talk at me. Dave was someone who demanded respect, and I listened to him. And look, I finally got released from that facility. I was clean for a while, but I found myself going back to the very thing that almost killed me. 9 months later, I'm back on the. My friends had a way of saying, "Look, you don't have to smoke cocaine. There's other ways to do cocaine. You can snort it." And of course, I'm in that mix again. I'm right back to where I was. 24 years old was my last felony arrest, and I was sitting on the bullpen floor of the Milwaukee County Jail. And I was contemplating my life. I knew I was in a bad place in my life, but this time I've got kids. I have a daughter. I have a 2-year-old daughter. And two things happened. It was July 4th, 1993. I was sitting on the bullpen floor in Milwaukee County Jail, criminals all around me. It was not it wasn't a nice place to be. Mm-hmm. And it was a holiday weekend in the United States. So I knew I wasn't going to see a courtroom for about 3 or 4 days. But sitting on that floor is when I made a decision. I said, yes, I was a drug addict. Yes, I was a gang member. Yes, I was a criminal. Yes, I was all these things that they said I was. But you know how you ever drink too much and over the toilet you pray to God, like, if you let me out of this, I'll never drink again. That was kind of me in locked up in that facility, waiting to go to court, just praying, just let me out. But two things kept replaying through my mind. Dave said something to me in the rehabilitation center when I was 17. And I didn't know where it came from at the time. I know today, but he said, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, which I now have. Well, I got a lot of tattoos, but it's one of the things that's tattooed on my body. And the other thing was, when I was being arrested and let out of my home, I caught my 2-year-old daughter's eye. Couldn't have been more than a couple of seconds, but it seemed like a lot longer. So sitting on that floor for 4 days, waiting to go to court, all I could see was her crying and screaming her face. And what Dave kept saying, a good man leaves inheritance for his children's children. Here I am, supposed to be a grown man. Mm-hmm. I can't even take care of the one kid I have. And I was a disaster. And I made a decision in the Milwaukee County Jail that, yes, I was all those things, all those adjectives, negative adjectives they used to describe me. That's who I was, but that's not who I would be. And from that day, I never got arrested again. I set my life on a path because Dave planted a seed for entrepreneurship, because I didn't know how I was going to get out of my neighborhood. He said, listen, entrepreneurship, because they're not going to hire you. You're not going to get the job because of your background, your lack of education. Your doors are going to keep getting slammed in your face. So entrepreneurship is your way out. And Dave gave me a book. It was called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And man, that book planted seeds that never disappeared. I wrote a book later on with a guy by the name of Les Brown. Les Brown and I wrote a book called The Power of One. And Les Brown said, once your mind expands, it can never go back to its original dimensions. And that's kind of what happened. Those seeds were planted. They kept growing. And eventually, and I wish I could say it happened fast, but it didn't happen fast, man. Les Brown said, jump and the net will appear. Man, I jumped and I bounced off the pavement like 15 times before the net finally showed up. It's been a dragged out, rough process. But now, I got a lot of years behind me now. So now people see the success. We've done, I don't know, $1.4 billion in sales. We built massive, global, organizations. So people see all that. So it's hard to understand where I came from. My sister died of a heroin overdose. My brother's been in and out of prison his whole life. So one out of the three of us, and I never say I made it, because I still feel like I'm a work in progress. I got a long way to go. But when you, relatively speaking, compared to everybody else in my family, I was the first. Anyways, it's been a very interesting, challenging time to get to this point. But now I feel like I'm finally growing up. I crossed the 50-year-old mark a little while ago, but I have more energy. I feel better. My mind is clear. I got wisdom, sorta. I'm still immature, but I'm having a great time. I'm finally living the life that I set out to live. So, anyways, that's kind of my life in a nutshell, man.
Okay, that and for me that is huge, because really it's not a nutshell. Really, it's a lot of things that you have lived, and that is really, thank you for sharing that. Quick question: if you remember when you were there, like thinking like, okay, God, help me, what is happening here? I'm going to be another person tomorrow. How you saw your thoughts, your like all those things that you're saying that were like planted in your head, how you started to nurture that and then started to see something, because we are the three of us, we are always saying like everything is created twice. The first time is in your head, and then you start to see it in the future, but really depends on how you nurture that. If you are nurturing that with bad thinking or negative thinking, and yeah, that is a good idea, but I never will do it because I have been in jail so many times that I'm not going to succeed. So how was that process to move from this seal that is great, because that was the one that helped you to be the person that you are right now, but to be like nurturing with good thoughts instead of all the things that happen to you?
Man, Alejandro, let me tell you, that is by far has been the most difficult challenge in my life. Because I don't know, you guys can probably relate to this, but I'm very prone to negative thinking. Like something will go in here and I'll start replaying it. Like I know I shouldn't be focusing on that, but I won't even think about it for a second, and all of a sudden I realize I just made it bigger. I'll get, some anxiety around it. I'm even prone to depression, and I realize it's from this. And I'll tell you what happened to me. I went to an event, and it was at the encouragement of a friend of mine, and it was about cognitive psychology. And it was interesting in that room. This guy talked about, and I never heard of the guy before. He's not a big name. He just happened to he was a psychologist, had some good information. But Tony Alessandro was his name. And Tony, I think he went on to be like a big name, but at that time he was just coming up. But Tony said something that I'll never forget. And I use this on a regular basis. He said that the mind can only hold on to one thought at a time. We think we got all this stuff happening at one time, but it's just a lot of different thoughts happening, very, very fast. In cognitive psychology, they're saying it's probably 50,000 to 75,000 thoughts that we're going through every single day. Now, the challenge with me is most of my thoughts were junk. It was like me eating a junk food diet, 24 hours a day, 7 days. I was just replaying all kinds of negativity and my teacher said I wasn't anything. My parents said I was nothing. I'm telling myself I'm no good. I can't do this. But here's what's interesting, what Tony Alessandro said. He said, if that's the case, if we have 50, 75,000 thoughts, we're really just replaying a lot of the same stuff over and over and over and over. We're thinking about our kids, whatever the stuff's going on. But he said he had us do this. He had us focus in. He made everybody in the room close their eyes. And he said, I want everybody to get in their mind's eye the picture of a big white elephant. And we all sat there, and he talked about this white elephant until it was clear in my brain. Like I could see this big white elephant. And here's what was interesting about it. And it became proof to me how we could change these thoughts. He said, if it is the case that you're regurgitating 50 or 75,000 thoughts, a lot of the same garbage over and over, every time you put something new in your mind, it's probably pushing something out. And he said, if you put enough good stuff in, eventually you'll start to push all that negative crap out. And here's what's crazy. I would be driving down the road. A week later, I was driving the road. Guess what popped in my mind? This big white elephant.
Yeah.
And
That's amazing.
It became so clear to me. If I start seeking out like shows like this, stuff that you guys are doing to teach how to get the mind right, go get another book, go hang out with the right people that are saying the right stuff. And that's what started to happen. I still have some of that stuff from a long time ago stuck back there that I'm still trying to get it out. But I've been so intentional on pushing out all that negativity by putting in new stuff, new information, new ideas, new concepts. And really that's been I don't have a claim to fame really, other than I just every day I'm intentional about who I hang out with, because it's always like, what do they have? What do my friends have me? Because my friends back then, we were doing drugs and stuff. That's just what we did, committing crimes and doing drugs. That's what we did. It didn't seem like because that's what we did. Until later on, you realize you can get in other groups that don't do that. You can push all that crap out of your life and you can make the changes. You can become better, but you got to move from a new association. You got to get new information. I don't mean it. Sometimes I get excited. You guys just
no, I love it. I really love
Please
it.
get excited.
Yeah, we love it. Yeah, absolutely.
This stuff is made this because people get so caught up, and I was so caught up on money, and I was like, I need to make money. I need to make money. But I realized that the results that I was getting, which was a lack of money, which was a lack of everything positive in my life, it wasn't. I could look back, and people would say, you need an attitude adjustment. You got to do all that. And when I go back, I realized I had to go far enough back to realize my problem with my attitude, my problem with my behavior, my action, and all of it came from my thinking. So you could send me to jail. But if we don't work on my thinking in jail, I'm just going to come out and be the same. Or unfortunately, you become a better criminal. Jails don't make you better. They make you a better criminal. You know what I mean?
Because they are the people that is around you again.
Exactly right. So
and John, you say when you need to get all the crap out of your head and fill it in with more positive thoughts and positive thinking, like where do you go and get that inspiration? Is it through God that you get the inspiration, through masterminds, coaching, your friends? How do you seek that out?
wow. Well, probably everything you just said is a little bit. For me, God was religion was an interesting concept because people that were religious around me, they they would say things like I'm going to hell. They don't even know me, but they made it not palatable. They
Right.
made it so I didn't even want to be around them. So I understood
Yeah.
what they were trying to do, but their delivery of their
Was wrong.
faith, it was wrong. It made me not want it even more
Rebel.
until somebody came in my life and said, "You're going to heaven." And I was like, "Bro, what do you know that these idiots don't know? You and I should hang out."
We can communicate.
Yeah, because he delivered it in an interesting way that got me to open up some books, some spiritual, some different things. I started to study the Bible. I studied the Quran, the Torah. I started to study that information because there was someone who came in my life finally and delivered it differently. So that's been a big part of my life. And then, of course, books. The beauty of it is on any topic you can think of, somebody already went through the challenges and took the time and they wrote a book and they put it in a book. And for like $20, I can go get this book and get that same information that they had. Or now it's even better because you got shows like this. This stuff you couldn't get. You're in South Africa, Mexico. We're all over the world. And
Yes, we are.
we didn't have this 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
our ability to do this and interrupt people's thought processes or help them change it. That's why I love podcasts. I love these type of shows. I wish we had this back then because I'd have to go to like the library because I didn't have money for books. So I'd have to go to, remember the library? People used to actually go to the library.
Who knows what is that right now, right?
Yeah. And what's crazy, it's funny, Alejandro, is back when I would go to the library, my mentor, Jim Rohn, he would talk about less than 3% of Americans have a library card back then. So it told me it was almost like people weren't even trying. And he kept saying, it's not hard to compete when people are not even trying. He said, if you just do what most people are unwilling to do, you will one day have what most people could never have. And just the idea of me showing up and going to the library back then, before we had YouTube and all this stuff, I was actually getting books and have to bring them back and go through this whole process. But now, man, there's no excuse now. There's no excuse because
Quick question, John, because for me, your story is amazing because there is so many things that we can take out of there and how you started to improve. But one thing that for me is key, at least right now in my life, it's about healing because you are talking about all these parts that maybe you were like, even you had like a lot of labels of, okay, you are this, you are this, you are this, and that's why you started to do all the things that you were doing. You were believing that you were that person. At the end, that's why you were like taking drugs or that, because that's who you believe you were. So how was that process of healing and changing all those levels to a new one?
man, you hit on some interesting stuff. When you say healing, it really it hits my heart because when you lose a sister to drugs, and when you have a brother, my brother's 2 years younger than me, but if you've seen him, he looks like he's 20 years old and maybe 30 years older than me. He's had such a hard life, and he has not healed from things that we went through together as kids. And even him and our relationship, my mom left us when we were very young. I've tried to make amends with that relationship, but she for whatever reason chooses not to. So there's some things that even me, I feel like I haven't healed from, because sometimes you have to have someone that's also like, if there's been hurt and there's other people involved, sometimes those people have to be involved. At some point, you have to forgive yourself and say, okay, I can't fix it, and maybe I'm never going to be completely healed, but maybe I can use this as my reason to do better instead of how I used to use it as my excuse to do worse. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
My experience, exactly what you are saying, I believe that we can be healed completely. But once again, it's exactly what you were saying before. If you're intentional on that, and if you are like, okay, you're putting the intention and attention on that, of course, if what's something because of your mom, sometimes in my case, for example, I had that problem. Like, I was feeling like I was alone with my father, even when he was always there, but he was not really there for me in a lot of times of my life. So in my case, I was like, what was happening and asking God what was happening until I realized the reason he was doing and acting like that was because he was hurt by his father. So there was a lot of healing with that, because for me it was like, wow, now I understand why he was behaving like that. So, and really another thing that I see, and I am seeing that in my life right now, is when I start to even heal things that I think that is not really important, they help me to be more abundant, start to connect better. So that's what I see in you. Like, you have healed a lot of things even when you don't know it. And that's why you start to do a lot of things. But imagine if you start to work even in the area that you are saying, like, maybe I am not healed. So the potential is huge.
It is huge. It is. And you know what happens sometimes, I believe, is some of those past traumas or whatever difficult things that we went through, sometimes it's easier to just avoid it. But it's still there. And we all know, I mean, we're adults here. We all know it's probably better to deal with it and get rid of it. But I have in the past, like some of that stuff, some of it I've just buried deep. And that's probably not the best way to handle things when I look back. But you know what happens sometimes when you make a lot of money, you can almost justify some of those things that you bury. Like you know what I mean? Money can be an exaggerator a little bit. And my point to this is sometimes I would say to myself, well, look at how successful I am compared to, so I would allow some of these things to just stay there because look, I must be okay because I'm making all this money. And now that I'm mature enough to actually recognize that, I've been finding myself going back to some of the things that I know are still rooted in there. You know what I mean? So I'm finally getting to that. That's why I say, like, I'm still immature in a lot of ways, even though I'm my age, I still have a lot of immaturity in me, but we all have to learn, and we all have our process, and we all have to go through this stuff. But I really had a lot of things when I think about it now, I had a lot of things that I had to overcome. And, it can be tiring. It can be, and when you got to face some of the things that you did to yourself, like some of the healing that I need is because of excuse my language, some of the crap that I caused on myself. And sometimes you don't want to deal with the things you did to yourself because it's easier for me to say, TJ, it's your fault. And I can just hold the grudge forever and go on with my life. And, that's usually not the best thing. By the way, CJ, I see your drums in the background. I'm a drummer too, man. So
Sweet, man.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I haven't played in a lot. I keep threatening my wife I'm going to get a drum set in the house and drive everybody insane here soon. So I haven't played in over a decade.
Start to do it, my friend. That is something that is going to kill you also.
What a great stress relief that is too. Banging away on those drums.
Oh yeah. I need to do it more. I'm working on actually 4 songs. We're in the middle of recording right now, and playing more guitar right now than drums. But yeah, it's a great stress relief. Man, to get that energy going.
Yeah, you just inspired me to start moving on that.
Sweet, man. That's awesome.
Appreciate you.
So,
it is crazy, man. We got 4 different countries rolling here at the same time. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about like releasing some things, and there's some things you still kind of packed away because you've achieved a measure of success. I'm wondering if you could unpack maybe one of the things that you've worked through, like whether it be like emotional or it's trauma or anything that kind of comes to your mind or heart that really helped you get some momentum towards that success. And maybe if you unpack on the other side of it, releasing some of the pitfalls that once you have the trappings of success, I don't want to call it trappings because it's amazing, but how that can keep you from, unpacking the rest. So any thoughts you have around either of those would be amazing.
Yeah, I think the big one, the massive one that had infected our family for a long time, it was drugs. Drugs were definitely an issue in our house, and it's a big issue. And for me, working through that and getting to a point where drugs were no longer a problem in my life. Drugs were no longer a part of my life. It was amazing. Here's what I learned. When I was 17 years old, I had over a $1,000 a week drug habit. Now I don't have a job. And go back to the 80s, $1,000 a week. That's some decent money for a 17-year-old. But I never missed a night of getting high. Like if it was Tuesday night, I was getting high. I don't have a job, I don't have money, but somehow I found a way to get the drugs. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you know what I'm saying? Never, there was not a night that I said, oh, I'm taking the night off, until it almost killed me. And then I was forced to take the night off. But my point to this is that when I finally caught on that if I could take that same persistent pursuit that I had of drugs and I applied it to other areas of my life, I was going to get those things. So when I hear people making excuses why they can't be financially free, why they can't have better relationships, I realize if I didn't have that drug problem, I might have just been kind of status quo. I might have just kind of went through life like a lot of people do, kind of just quiet desperation, believing that I didn't have the ability. But it was very clear to me that I had the ability to get things that I want. My mind could create what I needed it to create to get the thing that I really believed I needed. And so I tell people all the time, I simply, when it came to business, I really traded one addiction for a new addiction. I really did. I had the same relentless pursuit in business, which turned out to be much better for my health, my life, and everything else, that I did, for drugs. So that was like the major cloud over my head. And when you're dealing with something that big and you finally kind of get over that to a point, there was a lot of smaller things that I started to deal with. As a matter of fact, it was interesting because some of those smaller things I was able to deal with because money helped smooth some of those things out. In other words, I had legal issues. I had relationship issues. And some of that really were solved because I solved one major issue, and it was a domino effect with a lot of other ones. But then there's some things I just, even to this day, I obviously I still, it's weird I'm even talking about this with you guys because I don't really know you that well.
Okay. Amazing.
I had, I got issues.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I have issues with my mom that I just sort of, kind of, it's just there. And in a lot of ways, it's something that probably should be I'm gonna have to deal with it at some point. And now you guys got a tear in my eye. I'm gonna have to deal with it, tomorrow probably. But anyways.
Oh, but that's again. I think that once again we are planting a seed in your head again. It's you are going to a next level in your life, and what is that next level? Really, you need to start to unpack something that you have in your life. So this is huge, John. Really, and really thank you for being like that open. Like that is amazing.
It's a funny thing. Yeah, it's a funny thing about what I learned as a drug addict. Drug addicts don't tell the truth. And it was very clear to me, and it was pointed out to me again by Dave. Dave was constantly saying, you're not being truthful in a lot of, even if you're not saying anything, you're not being truthful to yourself. You're not being true. You can't be trusted. And that really stuck with me later on. And that's why even in the company I run, I'm known for my transparency. Like you're going to get the truth from me no matter what. Even like there's a lot of things that we mess up in the company, and I'm first to say I messed up, and let me tell you what I did, and let me tell you what I'm going to do now to fix it. And that really comes from back then when I would have never did that. Like I would have messed something up, but I would have blamed you, Alejandro. It would have been your fault. And Shanei, I would have blamed you. And everybody on this thing would have been your fault. I would have took no responsibility for it. And then I learned through great mentors and coaches and trainers that basically I had mentors that said, take responsibility for everything. If it's in your sphere, you'll continue to grow. And the people around, and matter of fact, you'll attract better people. You'll get people that all understand and they'll want to be in business with you. And so it really, all of these things, when you look back, the curse was I had a drug problem. The curse was I was in this environment, but it was also turned out to be the blessing, which is, when you're going through it, you don't see it in any way. I couldn't see any of the positive. I'm just a loser. People like me don't, we don't live in the big houses on the hill. We don't, get favor. But you really do. But you got to go through that process. And that's the hard part, man. It's getting through those early times. When I my first year as a full-time entrepreneur, I only made $4,000 for the whole year. So nobody was like, "Oh, John is great and he's going to save the world." I was the laughing stock. I was the embarrassment. In my family talk crazy, everybody around me talk crazy, but I was determined, and and I knew it was the only way. I was a janitor for a long time at General Electric, and I hated it. It's not. So I knew entrepreneurship. I was like, I'm going to get to the top of this mountain, or you'll find me dead on the side trying to get there. There was nothing in between for me.
Nice.
How did you stay persistent? How did you just push through?
Well, part of it was I caught on very early on to have a plan, set some goals and then have a plan, and then wake up every morning on fire for that plan. And I wish I could say that. There were some days, man, it was hard to get out of bed. Some nights I'm sucking my thumb in the fetal position, wanting to quit. I think here was a big difference. I quit so many times in my head. But I had a mentor said, "You're going to quit," but he said, "Never do it publicly." He says, "Once you make the announcement you quit, now you got a problem." And because I see a lot of people around me, they kind of make the announcement, you kind of know that they gave up, they're done. And it's hard to go back from that. But if I never told you, if you're my friend and I never told you I quit, but I went to bed last night quitting in my own head, I would sometimes wake up the next morning and say, "You know what? I'm going to keep going. I can fix this." So I think that's part of it. And then again, having the right associations. I really got to a point where I would seek out the right people. I had to have the right circle. Right. Because if you kind of got wind, if you're my friend, am I saying, is it Shanei?
Yes, Shanei.
So Shanei, if you're my friend, you kind of know me and you kind of know when my energy is off or when something's off. And I had friends like that would say, "Man, I know you're going through it, but you got to grow through it. You got to keep going." Like, people, you hear the cliches. If you're going through hell, keep going. Don't stop. Yeah. Don't stay there. And that's what I did. But there's still, like, there's days where I just step away. Like I got to disappear, for a day sometimes, and go have my little pity party,
which is good.
Yeah, I kind of, yeah. Sometimes it's needed. That's why we take vacations, right? Sometimes,
exactly.
I go to Mexico so I can be on a beach and have a margarita and just let it all disappear. And my problems will be there when I get back, but sometimes you got to take that time for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, and I'm curious about the smaller problems. You've ignored certain smaller problems, and how has that restricted you in business?
Yeah. Well, of course it has. Whenever you sweep something under the rug, eventually you're going to trip on that rug, and so, there were a lot of smaller things that I ignored that I've gone, and a lot of that stuff I've gone back to and have dealt with, and I got to this point where I knew I was really good at a couple of things. So I focused all of my energy there. And part of that is from one of my good friends and mentors, John Maxwell, on leadership. He always say, focus on your strengths. And there's a lot to be said for that. And there's a lot of truth to that. But when you have baggage, so it's one thing to focus on those strengths, but when you have stuff that's sitting there that you're not dealing with, that's where my problems came, because some of that stuff would pop up later on, in life. And I won't go too deep into it, but even things like, I'm not very organized. I'm not an organized person. And when you're the CEO of a company, you gotta pay attention to some of that stuff. So what ended up happening is I got really good at getting people around me that were strong where I was, and I still say that's the best way to do it. But there were some things that I had to work on, because I had to be able to bring people into my world and say, here's where we're going, here's how we're getting there. And I had to have some direction for them to jump on the train, because there are some people I bring into my world and I would expect them to fix some challenges, but I didn't even clearly define what the challenges were.
I have the same problem.
Oh, good. So thank God I'm not alone in this thing.
I'm there with you.
It's funny, what they say is acknowledging you have a problem somewhere is the first step in solving that problem.
Yeah.
And I got really good at acting as if I had no problems at one point. And what's interesting is I end up with a lot more problems. So sometimes just the fact of acknowledging, hey, I get some of our team will call me, or some of our ambassadors will call me and they'll say, look, I'm going through this, and this. And I said, man, congratulations, because number one, you recognize, because you know, there's some people that live a lie. Like they don't even know they have a problem. You and I know they have a problem, but they can't see the problem. And until they can clearly see there's an issue, it's never going to, you and I could tell them all day long, but it's never going to get solved. And that was me. And again, I had good people around me that said, John, I don't know if you know this, but you got an issue over here. And I'd have to go evaluate at that and be truthful and say, yeah, that's an issue that I created, and now I've got to fix it. So anyway, I guess there's so many different areas we could take this down, so many different directions we could go with this stuff.
And just to close exactly what you are saying, and I'm going to use your same words, but it's acknowledge, take responsibility with that, and then put the intention to fix it. You know, when you are doing those three things, that it is exactly what you have been saying during the whole program today, you are going to fix it. So that is huge, John, and thank you for that.
You're welcome. Well, and if you don't, you know what happens? And this is what happened to me. There was a time I was doing bad activities. I was hurting myself with drugs and you know, whatever. But it was kind of what we did in my neighborhood. So I didn't think a whole lot about it until I got the information. I went to a drug rehabilitation program and I saw clearly what I was doing. It was put in front of me. Here's how I hurt the people around me. Here's how I messed up relationships. Here I was messing up myself. Now, when later on I went back, remember I said 9 months later, I went back and I was doing drugs. I was doing it differently, but I was doing it again. But here was the difference. It was weighing on me psychologically like it never did before. Like before I would do drugs, I didn't think much about it. Now I would do it and I'm thinking, man, what is wrong with me? I was now beating myself up more than ever before because I had the information. And that's the good thing about like something like this, because who knows, someone gets this and they get that information that's planted a seed. So when they go do something they know they shouldn't be doing, or they're not doing something that they could do, it starts to weigh on you. Now in America, what we do is we go turn to the pharmaceutical companies and we get, you know, Pfizer to prescribe, you know, depression drugs. You know what I mean? We get on Prozac and all kinds of other stuff, which is not ever going to solve the root of the problem. It's what you acknowledge it, and then you work through that process. So it's very interesting. When I really start to think about this, you guys have drawn out a lot of things that, you know, I haven't even thought about in years. I've been moving pretty fast.
And quick question, John, just to move from the part that right now that you are talking about to the business that you have been doing, how like all this belief that you started to work in yourself and started to create the business that you have right now, and the business that you are doing even in health, because it's in health and trying to improve health in people.
Well, yeah, for me, it just made a lot of sense to be in a business around health and wellness, because I'm a person of integrity. I'm a person who I can't sell you something that I don't believe in. I can't sell you something. And I know a lot of people can do that. And at one point I could have done that, but today it's not a possibility. And just the fact that I'm in health and wellness, it really focuses me and forces me to be healthy. It focuses my energy on health and wellness. Like I do this, you know, fit at 50 thing. Like for me, you know, I got a routine that I hang with the 20-year-olds. You know, my wife is 28 years old, so I have to hang with her on a regular basis. But you know, not only I want to live a high quality, high caliber life, and I believe that health and wellness is the best way to do that. Get your energy right. Watch what you eat. And, you know, you don't have to be a fanatic about it. It's just sometimes go for a walk. Like if I'm feeling down, sometimes me just going for a walk changes everything. You know, instead of me, what I used to do is I go in the room, turn off the light, and suck my thumb. You know, like it just wallow in my depression. You know, so I now have a supplement company, and we're delivering the thing, because I had a when I was 40 years old, over a decade ago, I had a major health scare on top of everything else. I end up with this major health scare. I go to traditional doctors. Next thing you know, I'm on all these pharmaceutical drugs that made me miserable. I couldn't go outside. My skin was all jacked up. My energy was even worse. I'm like, this is not helping. I go and see a naturopath, someone who is like, they believe in fruits and vegetables. Imagine that. And they turn me on to supplements. They turn me on to some herbs. They for this particular situation tells me to eat watermelon, pumpkin seeds, and saw palmetto in pretty big quantities. And I'm telling you, within 30 days, my life was completely different. The doctors couldn't do anything for months and months and months. I go to natural sources and someone who had that kind of information to change everything. So I was a believer from that point on. And so I said, if that'll work for me, I bet it would work for other people. So we started to, play around there. And when you believe in something enough, people feel that energy, because we've all been bamboozled. We've all been taken advantage of. We've all been treated unfairly and taken advantage of. And now I think all of us are kind of become, I bet if I ask any one of you, you kind of feel people's energy today, don't you? You kind of know. Yeah. We know because I think it's like a sixth sense that we've had to evolve, because we can't even check our emails without somebody trying to steal money from us, right? You can't click on certain links. So we're almost like so in tune to being taken advantage of that. For me, I'm so big on people's energy. Like I can feel like I'm like, oh, there's something off about this dude. and I got to watch myself. And the reason why I bring it up is because like everything I do now is about creating an environment that's conducive to growth, that's positive. So for me, there is no success without successors. If I don't have a whole bunch of people around, like I can go make millions of dollars, but if I don't have people around me making millions of dollars, I feel like I failed. So that's, I'm constantly trying to figure out. My wife is always like, man, you want it more for them than they want it for themselves. And that is true a lot of the time. And it can be disappointing, but it's never going to change how I am. I want you to have it. I want you to have good health. I want you to have money. I want you to have experience life in a whole new way. And we created a company that's about transforming minds, bodies, and bank accounts. And and I live, eat, and breathe this stuff every single day. So again, don't get me started, man. I got my snap pack right here. This is my company. And it's liquid nutrition. Oh, you got yes. And just take that thing just like this. I just got my anti-aging and immune boosting in one snap pack. So
wow.
Yeah. So it's cool, it's relevant, and it has an impact. It can have a big impact on people's lives. Yeah. And I even got to promote it on this show. I wasn't even expecting.
That's amazing. We love it.
Cool. How did you find this company? Was it just through the journey that you went through with just becoming more healthy and feeling better within that 1 month? But how did you find all the products, or was it products that was already there? Did you guys develop it? How did that happen?
Yeah, we developed all of it from scratch. It was me. I was consulting with some companies. I had sold another company a while back, and I was kind of living from that company. I'd sold it, had a big exit, and I was living kind of a do whatever I want type of life. But I was consulting with some other big companies, nutrition companies. And I would talk to one of my close friends who's now my business partner, and he does about $1 billion per month in supplement sales. And I would talk to him. I'm like, it's so frustrating because these companies aren't listening. They're just not listening. And he said, okay, well, listen, dummy, then go do it yourself. Stop being frustrated. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And then finally, I think it just got to the point where something was telling me I have to do it. I have to go. And this should be the exclamation point on 28 years of building big businesses. And so it just turned out it was right when COVID was hitting, and he had, of course, we all seen pills, powders, gummies, spray. He had all these different delivery methods, and sitting to the side, he had one of these snap packs. And I just asked him, I said, what is that? And he was about to put hand sanitizer in it to sell to Delta Airlines. And I said, can you put liquid nutrition in there? And he said, that's what it was originally for. But COVID kind of changed the game. I said, I just found our delivery system, because I already knew liquid was going to be more absorbable than pills or powders. I could do it without fillers and all extra crap. And then I already knew two of the categories, because I know what the number one biggest category in supplementation is. So I knew we had to delve there. But then sleep was another big one for me, because I know a lot of people that are unhealthy because they're not getting sleep, and your body rejuvenates when you sleep. And if you're not getting good sleep, you're probably on a continuous cycle of coffee, energy drinks, who knows what else people are doing. So anyway, so we went into formulation. Took us almost a year just in formulating we only have 4 products, but those 4 products we knew had to be best in class in those areas. So we took almost a year in formulating them. We put them in snap packs, and now I can't keep them in stock. My biggest stress was right before this is we're running out of product every time I turn around. The demand for our product is bigger than my ability right now, or my expectations weren't as high. And so now I'm playing catch up in our manufacturing process.
Wow.
And sorry, Alejandro, how can other people from around the world get hold of your product? Do we order it online?
Yeah. So what's happening is right now we're in the U.S., Canada. We're moving into Mexico next. So when it comes to supplements, there's licensing and there's a process to you just can't say I'm going into South Africa tomorrow and then I'm in, which I would like to. But there's a process. So we've gone through that process in the U.S., Canada. We're heading into that process for Mexico because of COVID. I'm an international growth guy. I'm a global guy. Like Asia's been my biggest markets. I lived in Australia for a while, so I think on an international basis. But COVID slowed all that down. It became very, very challenging. We saw you already have enough red tape to go through when you open up a country, but then when you put COVID on top of it, but now you're starting to see all that coming down a little bit. You're seeing it around the world. Things are loosening up. So we're looking, but Mexico will be next for us. By the way, I'm a permanente residente of Mexico. I got my Mexican green card. I'm more Mexican than a lot of my friends that live in the U.S. So I'm looking forward to coming into Mexico again to build our company. We're already in Canada, and Africa's on my list I've never been to Africa. I've been all over the world. In Africa, I've never been there, so I have. Please
so
invite
welcome.
me. All right, I'm coming. But yeah, we're gonna take this all over the world, but we're gonna do it the way it's supposed to be done. We're gonna do it in the right time.
And John, I would like to ask you a question that maybe a lot of people ask themselves, and we didn't prepare for this, but because you are talking about integrity and being very honest, I would love to know, because I know that there is like a million of companies that are doing supplements.
Yeah.
And for example, talking with a friend last week or a couple of weeks ago, he is a scientist. He was telling, I test like all the supplements companies that are in, at least in Canada, because he was from Canada, and he was telling like 70 or 80% of them were like just gummies, like some candies for you, and you are thinking that you are taking the best pill for helping you, and it's just a candy that is not really helping you. How you are start to say like, no, this is not a candy, this is a real deal, you know?
Well, man, Alejandro, you're hitting on my frustration, because think about this for a second. And gummies are now billions and billions of dollars. They came along later. First there were pills, there were powders, but now gummies are taking over. You know why? Because worldwide we are addicted to fats, salts, and sugar. Yeah. America, we consume sugar in we're killing our kids. Literally, we're killing ourselves, our kids. Sugar is we're now connecting it to heart disease. Of course, diabetes has always been connected to, but now you're seeing the cancers. We are doubling our sugar consumption every single year in the United States. Our kids won't even eat any greens. So what the nutrition companies, what they say, if you get a gummy, I just looked at children's nighttime melatonin gummies, 5 grams of sugar in a bag of mix. They're not getting anything. That wax
is a shot of energy, not a shot for sleeping.
Yeah, would you give your kids? I would never give my kids more sugar right before bed, but the kids beg for it because they love the sugar. It's candy for them. This is not nutrition. We're so far off track when it comes to this stuff. We are literally killing ourselves through our mouths, and that's why, again, like I say best in class in every area. Like we've done the research. I got clinical studies. Like every one of our products, we actually have clinical studies around it where you can see peer-reviewed medical studies for lengthening telomeres, for brain function. So I take it, and I tell people all the time, this is not candy. I am not selling you hype. It's vegan, it's sugar-free, gluten-free, GMO-free. We did all the frees, which makes it more expensive, which is crazy. Why is it more expensive to produce high-quality natural stuff than it is to produce a bunch of garbage. It drives me insane. It's like you can go to the dollar menu at McDonald's, but go to Whole Foods and try to buy some organic produce, and the whole monthly budget is gone. It's a sad state we find ourselves in. But we have massive food corporations, we have massive drug corporations that keep feeding us stuff and market us. And now we shun natural for unnatural. I have pregnant ladies that come to me and they're worried about our products, but yet the other day they ate Burger King, ice cream, some hot dogs, a whole bunch of nitrates and processed food in a Starbucks, cappuccino latte sugar frappe, and they're worried about some broccoli, some kale, and some red ginseng. It's insane to me. Anyways, don't get me started on this one. This is a major topic.
No, but I believe that there is a lot of misunderstanding on that area, and that's why I was asking, because really people is thinking like, no, this is I just need to eat the right food, but sometimes you really need some supplements, but it has to be the right supplement, not whatever,
Yeah. Well, think about it. Monsanto has figured out a way to grow crops on soil that has no nutrient value. So you think about it, if we've over farmed land, we've taken the nutrients out. An apple today, a regular apple, conventionally farmed, has far less nutrients than an apple 10 years ago. 50 years ago, that's a completely different topic. And that's what people don't get. So you could eat green grass all day and maybe not be getting the things that you at one time you did.
You can become a cow at the end.
Yes. Yeah, we're messing. We're really good at tampering with things. That's what we do as a species. We tamper with everything, and sometimes. And look, I think there's a place for all of it. So I'm not knocking. There's a place for drug companies. There's a place for, all this stuff. But
no, there is some balance at the end. But of course, the idea is to share with people. Okay, this is a real deal because I see and I have failed in the past with other drugs or other things that I have taken. Yeah. So that was exactly the reason. And really, the idea for today was understanding who was John. You are the CEO of this company, OSNAP. And really, from understanding where are you coming from, all your heart, because you share your heart here today, it's like you start to understand, okay, no, this company, it's another thing. You have something different, not exactly.
Yeah, I would never look. I'm at my age, after 28 years of building companies, and you'll never find someone that's been taken advantage of. You'll never find someone that I owe money to. I would never this is the exclamation point on 28 years. Like this is my legacy. This is what my children's children will be able to talk about or benefit from when I'm long gone. So I said I would not work 28 years to build a reputation only to screw it up at the very end, especially when I already have financial freedom. There's a whole nother level. There's a whole nother reason for me doing this and taking it around the globe. And part of it is becoming from what you talk about. The nutrition companies we're actually forcing the nutrition companies to sell us garbage because we're asking for it with our taste buds. We're saying if it doesn't taste super great, I don't want it. So they make it in a laboratory. They drown it with sugar, artificial sweeteners, or artificial flavors, and we consume it because it tastes great. Look, broccoli doesn't always taste the best to me. So, but if you pour cheese and salt and you fry the broccoli, it's not really broccoli anymore. You know what I mean? So it's somehow I'm on this like mission a little bit to I tell people I'm not in the sales business. I'm not trying to sell. You could buy my product, don't buy it, I don't care. But education is now our new thing. We're re-educating our kids. I'm telling you, if you see what we're giving kids, just give a kid a little bit of sugar on his tongue. That kid lights up like a Christmas tree. They have the same brain reactions that they get from doing cocaine. It's the exact same thing that happens in their brains.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They can never eat kale again. They can never eat greens again. We mess them up so bad, and we don't understand why these kids. In America, we have the highest childhood obesity, childhood diabetes. We got more childhood ailments. We've never seen this before. Even look at autism today. Go back to the 1970s when I was born, autism was almost non-existent. Now it's so prevalent. You can't tell me that it's we've done something. We've done something
Yeah.
to create some of these issues, and then we expect our healthcare system to fix us after we jack ourselves up. And I'm just like, I'm on a mission to say, no, man, you can be in your 50s and be running around like a maniac, riding your bike, climbing mountains, driving, having a great time, playing the drums. You know what I mean? You can be. Why can't you? You shouldn't be lethargic.
Yeah.
Because you should have the light in your eye,
Exactly.
the pep in your step. You should be rocking and rolling, man.
So John, what's the major driver you're finding what's the catalyst that you're finding is creating this shift that you're looking to leave this legacy? I mean, we're winding down on time, so I want to really get this from you. What is it? What is the connection point that you're finding, that education piece that people are saying, aha, what maybe one or two big ahas? It's like, okay, how do I make that change? Because in education, it's a long drawn out process, right? Especially when people are addicted to sugar.
Man, CJ, let me tell you something. This is the challenge. People, we have been nudged off course for so long, for decades now. But people, here's what I'm finding. Like remember I told you when I was 40 years old, I had the major health scare.
Yeah.
Well, here's what's interesting about that situation. The doctor never once asked me about my food intake, never once asked me about my exercise regimen, not one time. The doctor asked me questions about my history, my dad, my grandpa. And matter of fact, they had similar situations. So guess what he did? He blamed my dad and my grandpa, and it let me completely off the hook. So I could go back home and still eat like crap because he was going to prescribe me drugs that were supposed to fix me. Now it didn't work. In a lot of ways, I'm thankful that it didn't, because I would have associated my health with another pharmaceutical drug. But thank God that it worked, because it got me to search for a better way. And that took education, and it also took time. 40 years being off track, and then finding someone who had information, and then wanting the information, and then willing to give up some of the things I really like. Man, I love a Big Mac from McDonald's. You know what I mean? I love some Kool-Aid with a whole lot of sugar in it, and Gatorade and energy drinks. But I had to make a decision. Is my life more important than that? Is me hanging out with my kids, going to their graduations, going to their weddings, is that more important? Because I am literally killing myself. Mm-hmm. And I had to realize most people are going to the doctor. The doctor's not asking them about any of this stuff. They're blaming their parents or their grandparents, and they're prescribing them drugs, and they never get off this cycle. So I can't change the world tomorrow, but you know what I can do? I can change my house. In my house, this is the way we roll. And then from my house, I'm starting to see we're bringing in brand ambassadors that are seeing it the same way, and they're catching on. Like, oh, we can make a little bit of impact here, and who knows? Maybe we can change the world at some point, but it's got to start from here. So right now, it's a big task, but people already know it. I think most people already know. They know when they're eating something they shouldn't be eating, because they know how they feel 2 hours later. We all know it, and so sometimes I just need someone to point out and say, look, we're building a community that has support, accountability. We're empowering our people. We're equipping them with the right tools and the right things. And we're doing it fast. So we're moving quickly, which I always say money loves speed. So the faster we can educate people, and the faster we can show them that there's an alternative, and it's not so bad. And once you get on the habit, you know what? It's like any habit. Get on a good, healthy habit. It's hard for me now to even think about a Big Mac, because I feel like I'd get sick if I ate it. Not that it's bad, but now I've completely shifted course. So sugar to me, I don't do sugar. I don't mess with it, because I know how it makes me feel. And even worse, remember the drug thing? Now I have the information. I can't possibly do the same things I was doing before and look myself in the eye. Anyways, you guys get the point. But
that's amazing.
I hope that helps.
It does.
It was amazing, John. And really, we have Adriana that is asking even, okay, how they can connect. Just Adriana, just to let you know, I know you, so you can reach me. We can connect. And then anybody that is here, you know that we are having this show every week. So you can connect with me, and I have the link and everything to connect to this amazing opportunity with John. And I agree. Really, what we are doing here is changing paradigms. That is the reason for this show, like helping people start to believe that they can become better, that they can do business and start to be better. So thank you, John. This was really amazing. Really, thank you for sharing your heart, because you didn't share just a little bit of whatever, but really was your heart, and we really appreciate that. It was amazing. We love it. This is the link, and I'm going to be talking with you also if you need to connect with us. Thank you again, John. Thank you, CJ and Shanei. Today was amazing, and we are really in the same mission to help people to improve their lives, their mindset, the way they are thinking, and really what I see, even for you, like the thing that you are not working on, we can work it together, and you can improve, and you can be better with that. So one thing is the supplements. Another thing is your mindset, how you are working on that. Another thing is the message that you have. If you can tweak it, that's why we are working with CJ with that. Another thing is the lead generation, how you want to really get to more people. So those are the things that we are doing here. And really, what we are doing is helping you to open your eyes and stop to be the best kept secret, you know?
Yes. Well, I would love at some, maybe we can all help each other. You know, Mexico is coming for us. We're already in Canada. Africa is on my bucket list. I have to make my way there at some point, and
Yeah.
sooner than later. So the world needs this stuff. The world needs what you're doing. And I think you're right. When we combine forces, we become better and stronger together. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. This show can be also heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Thank you all. Thank you, John. It was amazing.
Thank you,
All
John.
right.